who's in the recording studio with you? Is it mostly men? Who's behind the mixing board? Who's on your team at the record label? Who's your tour manager? We're seeing a lot more women in those roles, and that to me is a far more important development than do we have another woman pop star.
Comedy has been our through line, and making each other laugh, making other people laugh, trying to be inquisitive about the world in a way that makes us laugh and others laugh. It's just everything to us.
And whether you're 50 or 60 or 70 or 20, if you can start saving today and stay on that course, the bottom line is you're going to make your tomorrow better.
Welcome to Let's Talk, ladies, conversations across generations. I'm MB Roberts, an author and journalist, and this is a podcast where we talk to women from their 20s to their 90s about a bunch of hot topics. We ask questions, share experiences, and learn from each other. And it's not just about older women giving advice. We want to know what younger women are thinking too. Today, I'm joined by co-host Katie Neal. So let's get talking. We had a fantastic time recording season 2.
Yes.
I mean, not to mention, well, okay, I just mentioned season 1, but as we gear up for our 3rd season and keep talking to women of all ages, we thought we'd recap some of the highlights of our recent episodes in case you want to binge and catch up or re-listen.
There were so many good ones.
We love doing it. So in season 2, one highlight, we talked about women in music, and our guest was NPR critic Ann Powers. She guided us through how the music business has evolved for women, specifically Joni Mitchell, the subject of her recent biography.
And I got to talk to her about Taylor Swift, which was a highlight.
Right?
Wonderful moment.
Nothing wrong with that. And we got so much from her. And on another episode, we asked the question, can sex last? Meaning in your older years.
As you get older.
Right. Not like just for longer minutes.
Yeah.
So we had our favorite 86-year-old blogger, Sally Webster, and great news. She says, yes, indeed, sex can last.
And she's moved from New York to Chicago.
She has.
One of my favorite cities, Chicago.
She has, and we're going to need to catch up with Sally again. We hope to do that. We talked to comedian Courtney Warner about movies that influenced our lives when we were younger and that continue to inspire us. That was fun.
Love Courtney.
We laughed a lot with Courtney. We loved having her. And speaking of funny people, we also talked to improv artist Heather Hull about working with your partner and, is that possible? And how doing so has evolved over the years, like working with your spouse or your, significant other. Then we talked about cooking with rock star cookbook author Stacy Lynn Harris.
Yes, and she inspired us to try some recipes, and we filmed that.
Okay, so
we
tried 2 recipes. Did you try any more?
I think you know the answer to that.
Oh no, she's gonna be so bummed. We'll have to have Stacy Lynn back on to prod us further into the kitchen. Speaking of cooking, on one of our cooking episodes, I told the story about the infamous Easter bunny cake my mom used to attempt to make. We got a call about that.
Hi, this is Cindy calling from Virginia. I just love Let's Talk Ladies, and I never miss an episode. And it's not just because of the wonderful topics, and it's not just because MB is my sister. It's mostly because I'm worried I might miss something about our family secrets in one of those episodes if I'm not listening. However, one secret that will remain with me is the bunny cake. Continues to be a family tradition. Just makes me laugh thinking about it. What a great conversation.
So one of our most timely and thought-provoking chats was about women who choose to be child-free. Our guest Stephanie, passionately in the child-free camp, inspired this conversation. And here's a bit of my chat with Steph. I don't think my mom considered it a choice. I think
my mom didn't either.
She's a Catholic, and it was just when she got married, she actually had my sister 9 months to the day after she was married. And it was just, she was going to keep having kids.
Yeah, it just wasn't a choice, and that's kind of the thing too, where I think the fact that it is a choice now is something that, you know, a lot of women like understand and enjoy and celebrate. And for some people it's obvious, but for most people it's a decision that you have to put a lot of work into. And I have so much respect for people who put the work into making that decision and come up with either outcome. You know, people who decide to have children but put the work into thinking about whether or not they wanted to have them, and then people like you who like weren't sure and you put the work into it and you came out, you know, deciding that it wasn't for you.
So how did you feel about that conversation, Katie? Do you remember?
I loved being able to talk about this, and I think it's something we could definitely revisit because it's kind of an ongoing conversation. But, you know, just something that is a big part of my life, is a big part of how I've approached my life. And so, yeah, I love being able to talk about that and see what other people are thinking.
Yeah, and it was, I think the takeaway, you and I were kind of similar. We were kind of in a different category. You know, two of the women we talked to knew from a very young age they didn't want to have kids. And that was not our experience, but we had sort of a different perspective. But I really, really learned from that conversation. And another takeaway from that was that it's about choice.
Yeah. Which path?
Right. And like, so that I'm finding that to be the thread that ran through the season, choices, because we talked about whether or not to have children. We also talked to women about going gray.
On the other end of the spectrum.
Right. Let's lighten it up. The big question is, will you or won't you? And
I won't.
I won't either. But it is a choice, and I respect people who decide to go gray. But we had a chance to talk to style guru Stacy London. So here is what our guest had to say about the signature gray streak in her hair.
Well, I will tell you that I've had the gray hair since I was 11, and I can't even begin to tell you how many people have said to me throughout my life, you know, gray hair makes you look old. You really should dye it. But to me, it's sort of like being Cruella de Vil or Rogue, you know, in X-Men. I like having a signature. And I love the fact that so many people went gray during COVID. They were like, you know what, enough already. And they stayed with that. I think that gray hair looks really great on some people. It looks not so great on other people. And people need to have the choice.
I love Stacy, and that is a very famous gray streak. And it was fun to get to talk to her about what inspired that and how she feels about it.
Yeah, I didn't know she had it from such a young age, and that it was, it was natural. It was organic. It was not a style choice at first, but it became one. So
yes, did you notice she used the word choice? There it is again.
Choice. There's that word again, and we continued to talk about choices with her when we had her as a guest on dressing your age. Is it a thing? We talked about just a sort of the stereotype of that you're not supposed to
wear
dress
a short skirt.
Yeah, a certain way at a certain age. Well, we kind of bonked the heck out of that, didn't we?
Well, yeah, our other guest, you talked to the rhinestone heiress.
Yep. Morelia Suevas.
I mean, she absolutely has no rules, and I love her style.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That was inspirational to me, that it's, again, what makes you comfortable, what makes you feel good, that there's no shoulds around here. So we did get kind of serious and, of course, laugh, too, because our guest was Courtney Warner. And here's 30-something Courtney talking about therapy.
It's almost like with my group of friends who's like in like kind of the age group that I'm in, I feel like it's almost like a stigma if you don't go. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
It's almost like you're not in therapy, like you're not working on your shit. Like you should be in therapy and working on your shit, and especially with like there's sliding scales. There's so many ways, like to like figure out how to make it work for you. You know what I mean? And I think maybe 10, 20 years ago that wasn't the case.
Okay, so you knew this, Katie, but it was news to me that Gen Z is so into therapy.
Yes, really, my young friends are. And I've told you before, this was one of my favorite conversations just because I think it's such a great topic, because it's one of those things that really has evolved measurably, you know, since our moms, who we both talked about,
Right, who
would
really
never
would not go to therapy.
And
They
then
just
Courtney was she's just hilarious. She's so relatable. I love talking to her.
Yeah, I'll have her back on again. I really want to do that. So here we go with season 3. We'll talk about women's rights, or the erosion thereof, resilience, personal safety, overcompensation, overconsumption, not overcompensation.
Women are not overcompensated. Maybe by season 4 we'll be overcompensated.
I just really look forward to that in my lifetime. We also talked about starting your own business, how that's changed over the generations. And of course, we'll talk about boobs.
An important topic.
That's right.
It's good stuff, the whole spectrum, heavy stuff, light stuff. It's been so much fun.
Can't wait. And so I want to say thanks again to my on again, off again co-host, Katie Neal, and We Own This Town studio in Nashville. And a shout out to Honeypod Studio for our post-production and posting. And of course, to the fabulous Amy Reed, our audio editor and graphic designer. And please follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and follow the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And we will talk to you soon.